Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we will learn how to add background to our HTML elements. We can fill the background with a color, we can use images as a background, and we can use gradient as a background. We already know how to add color as a background, so let's try it quickly. Say this is the web page that we have. Let's give it a background color. Let's bring up our code editor here. So let's try giving a background color to this header. So this is the header element. We've already given it some styles. So let's give it a background color. Let's say hash A9, E5, E5. Let's save it. And as you can see, our web page has a light blue background color. Now let's say we want to add a background image to it. To specify a background as an image, we can use the background image property. So let's try that. So let's use the background image property. So to use a background image, we need an image first. So I've got some image here. So let's try this one. Coming back here. And to specify an image, we use this URL method and we pass our image location here. Let's save it. And as you can see, we've got this image in the background. So if I open the image here, so this is how the image is. But by default, it is being repeated to fill all the available space. Let's say we don't want to repeat it. For that, we can use another property called background repeat. So let's add that here. So background repeat, let's say no repeat. Let's save it. And as you can see here, now we can see only one image. It's not being repeated. Let's try changing the background image dimensions. For that, we have another property called background size. So let's try that. It accepts two values, a width and height separated by space. Let's say 200 pixels by 200 pixels. Let's save it. And as you can see, the image became smaller. Let's try giving it a value bigger than this div. So the height of div is 720 pixels. Let's try using a value, say 800 pixels by 800 pixels. Let's save it. And as you can see, the image is being cropped and it did not make the division scrollable. This is because the image is a background and not the content. Let's bring it back to original size. So let's just remove this. Let's save it. Right now, this background image is in the top left corner. Let's try moving it around. So for that, we have another property called background position. So here we can give values, say top. Let's save it. And as you can see, it moved to the center of the screen horizontal, but at the top. Then we've got left. Let's save it. And as you can see, it's in the center of the screen, but on the left-hand side. Similarly, let's try bottom. Let's save it. Again, it's in the center of the screen, but at the bottom. Similarly, let's try right. It is now on the right-hand side. And then we've got another value called center. And now, as you can see, the image is in the center of the division. Now, if we want to move it around, say to the top left corner, we could use a combination of these values. So we could do top left, let's save it. Similarly, let's say we want it in the bottom right. So we could do something like this. So bottom and right. Let's save it. And now, as you can see, it is on the bottom right corner of the division. Now, say we want this image to be a full screen background. So for that, the background size property accepts two more values, contain and cover. So let's try these. Let's remove this. Let's add the background size property and let's say contain. Let's save it. And as you can see, it's taking the entire height, but not the width of the division. This is happening because the image is zoomed to fill the space without cropping any part of the image. So that's what this contain does. Now let's try the other value, which was cover. Let's save it. And now, as you can see, the image is zoomed to fill all the space. This image looks a bit grainy because it is of a low resolution. Let's try using image with a higher resolution. So I've got another image here. Let's replace this value. So instead of this one, let's paste the new value. Let's save it. And this looks much better. That's all for today, guys. If there's something that you did not understand, feel free to drop a comment and we will discuss it. See you in the next video. Bye and take care. Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we will learn how to design gradients in CSS. Let's start with what is gradient. It is a smooth transition between two or more colors. There are two types of gradients in CSS. First, linear gradient, and second, radial gradient. Let's start with linear gradient first. In the linear gradient, the color transition is linear. That is, it can go either up, down, left, right, or diagonal. Let's try an example to understand it better. Let's create a div here. Let's give it an ID, say div1. Let's create two more divs, 2 and 3. So coming here, let's try using this div. Let's give it a width, say 100%. Let's give it a height, say 100 pixels. Let's save it. Let's bring up our code editor here. And let's run this with live server. Now, to give it a gradient, we can use the background property. So let's just use background. And to give it a gradient value, we will have to use linear gradient here because we are designing the linear gradient right now. So this linear gradient method, it accepts at least 3 parameters. So the first one is direction. So let's say to right. So we want our gradient to flow from left to right. Then the next one is first color or the starting color. Let's say F8, 69 and D5, comma, and let's give the second color or the ending color. So hash 5650 and DE. Let's save it. And as you can see here, we've got this gradient which starts from a little pink color and moves toward a bluish purple shade. And this is not half pink and half purple. It is like a smooth transition. It goes from pink. So we've got 100% pink here and it keeps blending with purple. Over here, it's half and half, but it's smooth. It's not a very sharp transition. And then as you keep moving towards the right, you get this purple color. So this was linear and the direction was right. Let's try something different. So let's use our other div. Let's say div2. Let's just copy all this and let's paste it here. So instead of to right, we can give the angle as well. So we have to give angle in degrees. Let's say 45 degree. Let's save it. And as you can see, it's not very clear that the gradient is going diagonally to 45 degrees. It is just because the width is too high. So let's reduce this. Let's say 100 pixels. And as you can see here, this gradient is going from pink to purple, 45 degrees diagonally. Let's give it a margin top just for a bit of separation. Let's say 48 pixels. All right. Similarly, you can change it to anything else you want. Let's say div3. Just paste it here. So instead of 45 degree, you can have 90 degrees as well, or say 180 degrees. And as you can see, it's moving from top to bottom. So we've got this pink on the top and blue at the bottom. So just give it a try, use different angles, different colors, and design gradients that you like. So moving on to the next one, which is radial gradient. In radial gradient, the color transition is circular. It looks like rings of different colors. Let's try an example to understand it better. Let's just copy this one, comment all these, and let's paste this here. Let's change the width to say 100%, height 100 pixels. And now instead of linear gradient, we will be using radial gradient. So let's add that. So radial gradient function. Right now, let's just give it two colors. So let's say F8, 69, D5. And the second color, 5650 and DE. Let's save it. And as you can see, there's this elliptical sort of structure in the center and it's fading outside into purple color. So by default, it takes this elliptical shape, but we can change it to circle. So for that, we can add Another parameter here, say circle. Let's save it. Now, as you can see, the gradient is circular, but it fades all the way to the farthest edge. We can explicitly declare the position value to ensure that the fade ends by the closest edge or the closest side. So let's try that. So right after circle, just give it a space and write closest side. Let's save it. And now as you can see, we've got this circle in the middle of the screen. It also accepts three more values. So instead of closest, you can have farthest side. And as you can see, now again it's stretching and fading towards the edges. Similarly, we can have farthest corner. And as you can see, it looks pretty much the same. And then we've got closest corner. Let's save it. And as you can see, it looks pretty much the same. And the reason these values aren't making any difference is because the width is 100% and it's pretty big. And a gradient, it's starting from the center. So by the time it reaches the edges, it fades. Or by the time it reaches the corners, it fades. So let's try changing the width first. So instead of 100%, let's say 200 pixels. Similarly for this, 200 pixels. Let's save it. And as you can see, this is how the closest corner look. So let's try changing it to farthest corner. Let's try changing it to farthest side. Let's try changing it to closest side. Now let's try changing the position. So instead of this closest and farthest side, let's write at. So we specify where. So at, say top left. Let's save it. So now as you can see, the center of our gradient is on the top left corner. Similarly, say we wanted it to be at top right. So we could simply change it to top right like this. That's all for today, guys. If there's something that you did not understand, feel free to drop a comment and we will discuss it. See you in the next video. Bye and take care. Hello everyone and welcome back. In today's video, we will learn how to handle long words and multi-line sentences. Let's say we have these block cards and what we want is these headings to not go in the next line. Instead, they should stay in one line with ellipses at the end. So if you're wondering what is ellipsis, it is the ... thing at the end of a text. Let's bring up our code editor and give it a try. Let's bring it up here. So for heading, there is a class. So blog heading, coming to index file here. All right, so we've already got it here. Okay, so first what we want to do is we want to stop this text from going to next line. So when the content doesn't fit in one line, it tries to find a white space and it wraps the content to the next line. So what we want to do is prevent that. So for that, we have a property, white space, and we can give it a value, no wrap, or what we are telling CSS is, so don't wrap even when white space is encountered. So now as you can see, all these headings are going out of the card. So let's handle the overflow. So overflow, say hidden, let's save it. And now as you can see, this text or this heading is clipped. And what we need is just the ellipsis at the end. So to get that, we can use another property called text overflow. So coming up here, let's use that property, text overflow. So it accepts two values, clip and ellipsis. So let's try clip. And as you can see, it stays the same because this clip is the default value. The other value is ellipsis. So let's save it. And now as you can see, there are these ellipses at the end of the text or ... at the end of these headings. Now let's say you have this really big word and you want it to wrap on the next line. So for that, we have two options. First, we can use the property word break. So let's give that a try. So coming down here to blog description, let's use this word break. So it accepts two values. First is break all. So let's save it. And now as you can see, it just breaks the word as soon as it reaches the end of the line. Similarly, the other value is keep all. So what it does is, it doesn't break the word and it overflows. So the next option was word wrap. So let's give that a try. and it accepts a value break word. So let's use that. And now as you can see, even this is breaking the word, but it tries to break the word at a more meaningful point. But if it cannot find a meaningful point, it just breaks it. So let's compare both. So first was word break, break all. Let's comment this, let's save it. And now as you can see, it's breaking the word as soon as the line gets over here. So it's lorem su. Let's comment this and uncomment the word wrap property. And as you can see, when this big word was encountered, it did not break it right here. It took it to the next line, waited till the end of the line, but it could not find a space or something meaningful to break this word. And then it just broke it from the middle. And that's how this word wrap property works. That's all for today, guys. If there's something that you did not understand, feel free to drop a comment and we will discuss it. See you in the next video. Bye and take care.